You said make a vent puppet. That is the first sentence. Make a vent puppet. Didn't make one. Didn't make one. No points. Vent puppet.
You know, one of my favourite things to do is have an argument with a good friend about something completely pointless and insignificant, where the fact you're getting so heated over something so pointless is what makes it so funny. It's one of those things you can only do with good friends, otherwise it gets serious, but swearing and insulting each other as best you can because you disagree over whether to put salt in a pot when making pasta, or whether it'd be better to have an upside down nose or hands on the wrong arms, or whether something is or isn't an eraser.
If they really wanted to, they could find it and it would still be intact as an eraser. And also, I think that erasing is the act of using it to rub.
Where does this come from?
Anger is funny when you know it's not too serious, when it still feels safe. It's funny to see Vahldieck go completely mental because you know it's a fictional comedy and everything will sort of basically be alright in time for the next episode. The anger like this is funny and can somehow combine a great relief of stress and some genuine rage alongside the genuine joy and warmth to be able to express it at all.
It's not a puppet, it's not a puppet, is it? It's not a puppet, it's not a puppet! It's a bank with a speaker in its head!
Taskmaster is full of those moments, largely for two reasons. The show is built around completely pointless and absurd tasks that make great material for irrelevant disagreements, and secondly, it's a competition comedians end up taking surprisingly seriously, where the strangeness and pressure of the competition, the looming, slightly mythic presence of this Taskmaster who will later watch their every move, and the pretty short amount of time they're given to cope with situations that often bear no similarity to any other situation they've ever been in. It makes for great stress. It makes for comedians becoming real life versions of Basil Fawlty, and that is endlessly entertaining to watch.
Not for the first time in this light-hearted entertainment show, we see genuine rage from James Acaster.
And it's not just this anger we see. Anger that often breaks through the comedy personas and reveals a side the contestants themselves don't always realise they had, but we see great triumph and pride over the completely trivial, great misery and humiliation, failure, rebellion, joy, mania. Despite none of the events mattering in the slightest, and in fact probably because they don't matter, it frees up space to unleash some more of these emotions than we'd otherwise dare to in ordinary life. Because it is all a game, because it doesn't matter, they let out things we normally keep a bit hidden. And so everything gets heightened in this experience, and that probably does make it a genuinely exhausting and draining and humiliating experience, but also very liberating to have space to release all of this, and also, obviously, incredibly fun. I don't think there's any show on TV that ever looks as fun as Taskmaster does.
Thank you!
And I could probably step back here and make a grand point about the power of not taking things too seriously. What if we approached all life in a similar way, where it does matter, as this competition does genuinely matter to the contestants, but also through all the failure and rage and everything else we might experience, we're half laughing at ourselves, not with despise but affection and trust, because we know it's okay, it's safe, everything is still basically fine. We want to do well, but we half laugh at our failures, and when we do triumph, we actually don't repress it as we normally do, but instead lean into the delight and the bravado of it in a half real, half ironic way, because it's so much more fun to. So I guess in that sense that's not quite an idea of nothing matters, therefore it's fine, but the results don't matter, whereas the journey and the experience itself, whether successful or unsuccessful, can be a fun one. I didn't intend to get wildly philosophic in this video, but there we are.
Let's stop there for some incredible adverts. Have a great time watching them!
Taskmaster is a great show, and with the simple yet incredibly innovative premise of it, I wouldn't be surprised if it proves to be kind of revolutionary. It's part sort of Big Brother, or I guess sitcom, part panel show, and also part grand Olympic style competition. The show wouldn't work if they didn't all gather into one room to watch the tasks back and scrutinise them, because that then adds another layer. You get to see not just the dumb things they do themselves, but then those dumb things get the mick taken out of them by Greg and the other contestants. You get to see them squirming and struggling to defend their actions, and then obviously arguing about it all.
Like a melon buffet, is what I thought it was like a melon buffet, that's not a thing!
And I think what's good about panel shows is that it isn't so much scripted humour or just telling jokes to the audience, but members of the panel often telling jokes to each other and taking the mick out of each other and just having a good time with each other. That's always a much warmer experience for an audience to watch. But in a similar sense, Taskmaster breaks down the more scripted and perfected sides of a comedian's persona to reveal the more ordinary human beings beneath. It's hard for a persona to be maintained when they're put in stupid situations and forced into idiotic decision making, and this combines with the journey feel of the show, where a whole season are the same contestants and we do feel like we go on a journey with them. We see running jokes develop between comedians.
Bosh.
Where their trained personas might break down, the journey and narrative of the season itself often builds up a new one in their place. Al Murray's pub landlord character is obviously nowhere in sight, where instead an image of Al as the moneybags who will bribe everyone for everything develops. Noel Fielding becomes more laddish, Tim Key becomes a mischievous cheat, Nish Kumar, Paul Chowdhury and David Baddiel become hopelessly useless at everything and anything.
Can I ask you why you're sniffing the ice lollies?
To get the flavour, and therefore the colour.
Is that how you get the flavour of
I
ice?
can taste them.
In fact, my favourite dynamic that builds up across the season was Hugh Dennis and Mel Giedroyc becoming some old married couple, where Mel excitedly babbles on with ideas and Hugh quietly, passively goes along with whatever she says. The group tasks in general always make for interesting behaviour and dynamics, where teamwork can lead to triumph, or excitement can lead to mad rebellion.
What Noel threw off was a full gas cannon.
Or disagreement can lead to a very petty dispute. The sense of journey is fulfilling in itself though, because we're given something much more memorable. Whilst the tasks are things that intrinsically don't matter, they're not just isolated singular things, they're part of a wide narrative. They're part of this competition and part of this material for contestants to gather round a TV and have a laugh about, half laugh, half reminisce over. So in that sense, they're not isolated tasks, but part of the greater journey that is in itself fulfilling, because it's a journey of comedians forming closer friendships and having a very good time together.
This has been a wonderful experience and I will remember it until the day I die. Lodi Adafope.
And I guess that's the great point. What matters is those dumb memories they can have a great time reminiscing about. It's probably true for life in general. No show looks as fun as Taskmaster does, and with good reason. Taskmaster feels like one of those rare, out of ordinary life experiences you only get a few times ever, really. An odd week-long holiday with a big group of good friends, or an odd road trip, or I remember the several days me and two of my friends once spent camping secretly in a farmer's woods, or I think of that documentary about the Band of Brothers cast being put through a level of boot camp to learn some army stuff, but also build a genuine bond between them, or the Lord of the Rings cast. Think how much fun that would have been in a New Zealand countryside, this big, close cast of people for 3 films worth of epic fantasy, all filmed in one long go. These sort of things aren't just great experiences, but also ones that feel like fully developed and concluded journeys within themselves. They feel like stepping out of ordinary life to experience something else before then coming back again afterwards. Taskmaster gives us a glimpse of something like that, which is something no other panel show does, and for that alone, if not for the a billion other reasons I haven't mentioned, Taskmaster is one of the best comedies on TV at the moment. Okay, and a few other reasons really quickly. Greg Davies is perhaps the best person you could possibly have cast for his role. His background as a teacher only adds to it as well, I think. Equally, Alex Horne is great, and it takes a good level of security for the inventor of the show to have the sense to cast himself in that role as the pathetic sidekick. A role that the other contestants sometimes feel sorry for him for, and other times join in with.
You can't just nearly kill Alex every time.
The music is great, and effects between transitions and everything are really slick and stylized. I like the way it's all mostly set around this one house to keep it a bit contained, and I think that clear sense of location adds to this feel of a properly connected journey. A house they put some real work into props with as well. Like, there's just so much interesting stuff that the contestants have access to by virtue of looking around the house. A prize task at the beginning is a very good, more relaxed way to ease things into the show and also kind of introduce the guests to us if it's the first episode of a new season. And then the stage task at the end is a good way to wrap up and conclude the episode.
Hi there. Have you ever seen or eaten a wind-dried puffin?
I really like the way the slightly scripted moments of Greg and Alex exchanging banter at the beginning of the shows aren't actually scripted, but Alex randomly planning something to try and throw Greg off, and Greg just reacting to it, sometimes outright interrupting whatever Alex had planned.
Yes, we now know where it's hidden, but will, and if so, how, and if so, when, will our next player, which is Lou Sanders, find it?
You genuinely irritate me.
It feels more genuine and less serious. You know, it's like taking that typical, often hammy and sometimes awkward forced banter hosts always do at the start of shows and kind of poking fun at it.
And I'm quite a kind person. For example, here are some raisins. If you want some raisins.
I'm all right, thanks.
And obviously the ideas behind the tasks are very creative.
Where's my car?
A great variety of different things, often with a good level of absurdity to them, but not so much that it feels annoying and distracts from the real absurdity, which is meant to be the stuff the contestants do in response to the tasks. And also a good level of theme between them. Theme isn't the right word, but partly the fact they often use the same locations, like there's lab tasks or caravan tasks or bandstand tasks, and there's rubber ducks that often come up, or the Swede who I think is called Fred, or that red bit of carpet. Whatever it is, there's a great variety, but enough similar elements that they're given a familiar sort of homely feel to us. Visually, there are just objects that start to look like an actual Taskmaster aesthetic, and that merged with the music and transitions and everything, Taskmaster does have a really strong aesthetic as a whole. The contestants they pick I don't think are always the best ones at face value. Like, there are a lot of great comedians out there who you'd expect the show to pick over Paul Sinha or Alice Levine, for example. However, because it's a show that often breaks down personas, and because you never know how anyone is going to act when thrown into strange tasks, those sort of things don't actually matter. Both of those contestants were brilliant on the show.
Hello! Hello!
Sometimes the people I've never heard of or even don't much like turn out to be better than the comedians I had heard of and loved. Basically, I just loved the show and suddenly felt like sharing my feelings about it. I know there are other adaptations of the show in other countries, but I'm not sure how successful or not they are. I'll have to investigate someday. For now, Taskmaster UK is amazing and I thoroughly recommend it. Let me know your thoughts, your favourite contestants, like the video if you liked it, subscribe or support me on Patreon if you fancy it, but otherwise, hopefully see you next time. And a special thank you goes to Devin, David Kling, Darren Burdock-Glatter, Kestrel, Arwen, Stephen Legg, Samara Stacey, Sharokov2814, Joshua C. Collier and Chad Bramwell. Thank you.